Before I get to a joyous review of a joyous album, A Dream Is All We Know by the Lemon Twigs, I need to answer two questions. Question number one, why in the world am I dressed like this? Question number two, should we listen to the Lemon Twigs? Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's wearing this suit because it's the last day of the semester. I always wear my dragonfly suit. I am, as you kids say, quite dripped out. It's a way to celebrate, a way to have fun. And it makes a lot of sense because this album itself is very light and is very fun. You know, I've just been mostly doing Drake and Kendrick beef videos for the last couple weeks, and I enjoy it. And some people have mentioned that this is like the opposite of that. I don't think it is, because it's just great art, okay? So I'll talk more about that at the very end of the video, but this channel is not about hip-hop, it's not about rock, it's not about pop, it's not about folk. It is just my best possible efforts to analyze music and treat it with the, I don't know, academic rigor that it deserves and even the passion. But let's get to the second question. Who cares about my suit? My brother has the exact same suit, by the way. When we wear it, we look like a couple of henchmen in a kung fu movie. It's awesome. So the reason that I ask this question, you know, why listen to them, is I've covered their music a few times now, and one of the comments that I see most often is, why listen to this when I can just listen to what inspired them? You know, why not just listen to the Beach Boys if you like Beach Boys melodies? Why not just listen to the Byrds if you like 12-string guitars and jangly sounds? Why not listen to the Kinks? Why not listen to the Who in the mid-60s? Why not listen to any number of great 60s and 70s bands? Well, I have three reasons why. It's actually probably more than three, but people like it when I give numbers, so I'll just start listing, and if I go past three, I don't know what you can do. Number one reason, just because they can, it doesn't mean they shouldn't. Very often, we underestimate okay, it's true, a lot of bands, especially now in our kind of postmodern age, imitate older styles. But there's not that many that do it like this. And you have to ask yourself why. Why are there so many 80s throwbacks with synthesizers and simple drum machines? Why is there so much post-punk with kind of grovelly, you know, grimy guitars and voices? Why is there so much reproduction grunge music? Why is it there's so few bands that manage to mix together all those elements I just discussed? You know, from Paul Simon to the Beach Boys. It's because they can't do it. You think it's that easy to make this kind of music? You do it, Jack. You know what I'm saying? You go ahead, Jack. You give it a shot. I don't think you can do it. And I think this actually works against them, because there's so many groups that are in the 80s lane, in the 90s lane, because it's not that difficult, that we sort of think of it as its own genre. There's like, you know, it's like 5 or 6 bands that are sounding like this, and there's 10 bands that sound like that. No one else can sound like this, because let's just be honest, they can't do it. And that's really at the heart of what's happening here with Lemon Twigs. This is two brothers making all these sounds. I mean, unless they are lying on their credits, okay? I don't think they are. I think this is just two brothers who like each other. Okay, that's reason number two. We have a brother band where they apparently like each other. Hey, you can be like the Beach Boys, but you like each other? And it's amazing that they're making all this music together. It's actually kind of like disturbing and upsetting because they're so good and so young and so together. So that's the first reason, that we jump right ahead and we say, okay, this sounds like other stuff. But that actually leads into reason number two. You know, it doesn't make it inauthentic. Like, just because you can recognize and pick out their influences does not mean that what they're doing and what they're making is not meaningful or not authentic to their own emotional experience. I happened to be at the Record Archive in Rochester, New York during the record store day, and there was this band that played, Ward Hayden and the Outliers. Now these were some dudes from Boston who were playing mostly old-style country music. They played a lot of Hank Williams music. And it's funny because I remember being that age when I was like 22, 23, and I discovered the music of Hank Williams, and I was like, oh my God, I have to make music like this. I just have to do it. And I wasn't trying to be a poser, I wasn't trying to be a hipster, none of those things. It was just I discovered this music, and no one was making music like that anymore, you know? No one was making music like Hank, And so I wanted to make music like Hank. Now, unfortunately, I completely lack the talent in terms of songwriting, singing, everything. Everything that could possibly be said to be lacking, I was lacking. But I also went through the same phase when I got into the Beach Boys. I wrote a ridiculous song called Trouble, where I was trying to base it off of a Beach Boys style thing. It's the reason that I bring up my own personal experience is I think it's very possible. You know, I mean, music is cerebral and it's emotional. You know, so this channel, I try to be very cerebral. And I try to be, about the thoughts, not about the reactions. But the emotional content is never far away. And it feels to me, and this is a feel thing, this is maybe a mileage will vary thing. When I hear the Lemon Twigs, I don't hear people doing style exercises. I hear people who have figured out a way to express what they want to express, to create the kind of art they want to create, okay? Find a way to it's like imagine an artist who decided that they wanted to paint like Jan van Eyck, like some Northern Renaissance master. You know, would we say that he's just derivative of Jan van Eyck because he takes Jan van Eyck's style and he really should be doing abstract expressionism, you know? It's too easy to dismiss for that reason. Reason number 3, I didn't want to listen to them because a thing happens to me. I'm 46 years old. So I got a lot of friends who are 46 years old. I got a lot of friends who are older. Sometimes I'll hear music, and I'm not talking 100 gecs and RXK Nephew. I'm talking like I hear music and I think, oh, I think Joe would like that. Oh, I think Kirk would like that. Oh, I think, and I start thinking all these people in my life who are my age or older who would like the music, and all of a sudden I get angry because I think like, oh no, am I just liking this because it sounds like old stuff? Is this going to be a Greta Van Fleet situation? No. And I think that's what makes this band so interesting, is most of its fan base is young, which therefore makes it quite interesting, because Greta Van Fleet, my issue with Greta Van Fleet, is it's young people making old music for old people. Okay? And that, to me, is not very enjoyable. I don't want to go to a concert and be way older than the band and way younger than the audience. That's a messed up ratio right there, okay? So I think they found a way to do it. Reason number 3. I don't know what I'm at, so I'll just keep going. Number 3. I think it's overstated. To this idea that we can boil down can you boil down their influences? I get it, that it feels like you recognize certain things, and I'll bring up things when I recognize them. But we're moving at my offices. There's so many good things in this music. There's so many delicate, complicated ideas that are stitched together that to me it feels like a quilt, but I don't really always understand what each piece of fabric is. And I think that's a sign of their skill as songwriters. And finally, reason number 3. You ever watch All in the Family, the sitcom? I wasn't really into it when I was younger. I didn't like the way that it looked. But if you've never seen it, it's like the greatest sitcom. It's unbelievable. It's all about this guy, Archie Bunker, who's an old, fat, angry man who sits in a chair, and his wife is this kind of oblivious woman. They could never make a sitcom like that today. That's what conservatives will tell you, because everyone is too woke these days. In reality, they could never make a sitcom like that again because the show itself is too woke. The reason that I mention this is I happen to have been watching this TV show while I was at the gym listening to this album. And I'm watching this beautiful episode called Cousin Liz. It's all about the importance of recognizing same-sex marriage. We're talking like 1973. It's like realist, it's down, it's just 2 sets and just like 10 actors, and they're just knocking out this comedy, and it's this really amazing, moving moment of just overcoming bigotry and understanding the nature of love and the fact that one doesn't choose one's sexuality. All this stuff, way ahead. And All in the Family is a great show, but no one's done it again. No one. I mean, The Simpsons kind of does it. Family Guy kind of does it. Married with Children sort of tried to do it in reverse. There's all of these attempts to do what Norman Lear and whatever Carol O'Connor did 40, 50 years ago, they're not able to do it. That's what I think. I think there's not going to be another band like the Byrds. There's not going to be another Bob Dylan. There's not going to be another Paul Simon. There's not going to be another Simon & Garfunkel. Not going to be any of those things. So if we can have any kind of art that captures some of it, that uses some of it, that helps to build, that helps to carry on these traditions, then all of a sudden we have an interesting conversation. Instead of thinking of it as mere imitation, think of it as a conversation. The same way that Peter Griffin is in conversation with Archie Bunker, which of course he is. The TV shows both start with a couple playing at a piano. Why not see it as a conversation? So that's my justification, in case you needed it. But maybe you don't need it. Maybe you just already love them. Maybe you're smart enough not to need that kind of explanation. Or not smart enough. Maybe you've already reached this point, okay? So let's talk about this album. Is it good? I guess that's a third question. The problem is this. Their last album, Everything's Harmony, is just a masterpiece. It's just one of the best albums of last year. It is everything that is good about this album here, but sort of amplified. This album, based on 10 listens, 15 listens, is just not as sort of, lyrically, it's not as engaging. Musically, there's not as many memorable things. It's maybe lacking a little bit of the humor. It's lacking a little bit of the polish. But I still think it needs to be listened to, and I still think it's a great album. The way that I think about it is like, you know the way rap artists will release like an album and a mixtape? And like the mixtape, it's like all the same stuff. It's like beats and rhymes. But sometimes they just determine that like this is a lesser product. That's what I think it is. I think this is a Lemon Twigs mixtape. And it's got some absolute gems on there. But if you set your expectations at Everything's Harmony Part 2, like that album came out like less than a year ago. What do you want from these people? What do you want from these two men making all these sounds? They even talk about it on the album, I think. There's a voice in my ear. Now, there's a voice that whispers in my ear, you are less than you were last year. But it's all okay because it went away and I have no use for this fear. And I think that's true. This album is less than they were last year, but it's still amazing. If I were to have any sort of like thing I really like about the album in terms of its influences and its sounds, this album feels less Paul Simon-y and more mid-60s Who. So before Tommy, after My Generation, they had this kind of time, I think like Who Sell Out, think like sort of like some of the earlier stuff on Odds and Sods, A Quick One, that kind of era of Who, a kind of a little more of a mod style Who, not quite the fake James Brown or their first album. It's got kind of that style. It's got sort of a Kinks feel at times with the harmonies, that kind of Britishy feel. And so that's when I really like it. At times that can verge into sounding like the Monkees. Now listen, I got a friend, Hubert. That dude loves the Monkees more than anybody likes any band. Think of your favorite band. You do not like that band as much as Hubert loves the Monkees. That dude loves the Monkees. And I'm not here to make fun of the Monkees. I like the Monkees. But because they are often intentionally imitating certain sounds, at times it can feel that way. And at times, when this album is at its absolute nadir, absolute bottom, it reminds me of the Friends theme song, which it makes sense. You know, these are young guys. Okay, so let me give you an example. A Stamp. It's probably my favorite track on the album. There's a lot of great tracks on this album. The whole album is really great, track to track to track. If you're liking what you're watching, smash the like bucket, subscribe. If you type in letters AVAA, I will heart the comment. Okay, I used to say I will guarantee heart every single one. I think I will, but things have been a little bit crazy. I've gone viral, so I'll do my best, okay? See if you can catch me. See if you can catch me not hearting your comment. And you might succeed this time, but I swear I read every comment. I really do try. All right, so Sweet Vibration, that's the song I'm going to pick for a very specific reason. Because what is the reason that you should listen to this album? Well, I only gave you 2 reasons. Reason number 3 is joy. J-O-Y. J-O-Y. J-O-E, actually, in French. Joie, joy. Why am I speaking different languages? Doesn't matter. It is just absolute joy. Just they're just a glorious, fun, sunshine band. It's about to be the summer. Maybe some of you are about to graduate. Maybe some of you are about to go on a walk and look at the damn birds. This is what you do, a song like this. And how can you not feel the joy in happy people making happy music? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're too cynical. Sweet vibrations traveling through my nerves tell me something much more than words. Breathe the lovely aroma, hear the sound of birds. This cool kind of tacky piano, almost like Bird-style guitar, like Roger McGuinn, the band The Byrds from the 60s. In the beginning, that gets replaced with like strums and the voice is so high, but there's also sometimes little dark notes here. It's kind of like a sad descending melody at a certain point when he's talking about being free. You are gone, I am free. And then there's like all these little tiny why am I saying it like that? Moments. These little tiny moments that remind me of other songs. So like right before I think it's the chorus, there's this bit that sounds like it's lifted directly from Tears of a Clown by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. While I was driving to go get my son at college in DC, I was listening to this song, and I was crossing the Tuscarora Creek in Frederick, Maryland, and I saw this woman carrying some large piece of machinery, and her son was trailing behind her about 6 feet, kind of skipping and laughing. I only tell you that because that's a good example of the kind of emotions that you can feel while listening to this album. Amazing production on here with like some strings and some cello. And then this is why I really want to talk about the joy of this album. You know, the joy of this album is just in the little la-la-las. There's little la-la-las in here. And this is maybe the first time that my 17-month-old baby has ever sung along to a song. We were listening to this album in the kitchen, and when this happened, she looked up, and she goes, la la la, la 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 la. Now listen, she sort of sings the beginning of We All Live in the Yellow Submarine because she thinks that it's called the We All. So she says We All, but this is really it. And then it's, you know, hear the sound of birds. And then at the end, the guitar even sounds like the birds, like the 12-string guitar, and it's jingly and it's jangling and it's wonderful. And it's all these things mixed up. And I can just keep doing that. I can keep just giving you things it sounds like. But in my opinion, again, mileage may vary. I don't like that expression. I've used it twice now. I regret it both times. I don't edit my videos. So whatever floats your boat. To me, it sounds original, even if I recognize some of the component elements. My Golden Years, I already did a whole video about that song. Check that out in the description. But it's a perfect way to set the table. Maybe our problem, you know, like, we'll be in trouble if AI, like this, their music is sort of like sometimes if you had an AI generator that didn't suck. If you like tried to create songs using different styles and different instrumentations. But now I see that, I regret more than the other thing. I don't think that's really true. It was kind of a clever thing I thought of, but I officially retract that. Really nice Beach Boy melodies in the chorus. This has the most kind of Friends soundtrack thing. I want to apologize to my brother, the same one who has this suit. I actually basically disowned him for like a couple months when he told me he liked the TV show Friends. It was the 90s were a weird time. I was an edgy boy. Next track is called They Don't Know How to Fall Into Place. Little harpsichord intro, great raw, good drums. So much beautiful musicianship. And listen, I'm a sap. So I just imagine two brothers making music together and having it sound this good. And it just warms my heart. It's that joy. Some fun claps. Wakes up from the dreams. This is the one that feels most kind of Monkees-like. Again, I'll have to hit up Hubert. Another full Beach Boy chorus. If I lose or win, I don't know how to fall into place. Interesting line. Reminds me strongly of When I Grow Up to Be a Man by the Beach Boys. When I grow up to be a man. But that's fine. Again, little flat notes jumped in. I'm not sure I like the bridge here, but there's a beautiful instrumental bit here where there's like the pianos in full unison with the bass. It's almost like this kind of honky-tonk sound. And then this little do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It sounds like a parody of elevator music, like thrown in the middle there. Church Bells is the next track. Nice muted drums, even a strange time signature, very high British sounding singing. This is that kind of Kinksy sound. So many wonderful people, but this is the one I love. Upbeat, sweet lyrics, old-fashioned love song, song of longing. Very sincere. You know, maybe we have trouble with sincerity. Maybe not. Gorgeous kind of mandolin-y guitar solo, or like electric guitar solo. a little more do-do-dos. And it reminds me a lot of the song Marianne with a Shaky Hand by The Who. One of I don't know. Sometime I'm gonna do a whole video on The Who Sell Out. That's my favorite Who album. And then there's this whole like singing about, okay, what I like about this is that this is a whole little story. And it's like a love story, and he's in love with her, but she's in love with someone else. And it's just a story, and I don't really think that there's any woman in Jersey, and I don't think that there's any man that she loves on the Mersey side, right? I don't think so. I think this is just like old Tin Pan Alley songwriting style of just, hey, let's just write an interesting love song around the theme of church bells. And why not? A Dream Is All I Know. They, I don't know, tripped over something and accidentally hit the 70s button when they had the 60s button. This great, just the drums on here, and they have like a little theremin here. they had this sort of like soft rock 70s feeling that reminds me of, I've had this happen many times, where there'll be a song that I've hated my whole life, and then sometime I'll like actually hear it, you know, like listen, you know? Like sometimes there are songs you hear so much you can't possibly listen to them, you know? A good example is basically every single song on the Casino soundtrack I hated before I heard the Casino soundtrack, you know, like Without You by Nilsson, or Nights in White Satin by Moody Blues. You know, like I just couldn't stand them. But then when they were on the soundtrack, I realized that I loved them. A Dream Is All I Know is a song that sounds like it was recorded in '78, and I've hated it for 40 years. And then I listened to it and go, wow, that's a gorgeous melody. The way it's mostly over the drums and this kind of like, this great sort of like stretched out feeling, and the unexpected science fiction noise of the theremin, and just this cool vocal tricks on the last chorus. So many great production moments all over this album. I said it's not as good as Everything's Harmony, but that's like that's praising something with faint damnation. You know what I'm saying? I just came up with that right now. I'm gonna say it again because you're probably sitting there going, damn, Skye, you start doing the freak. I'm going to praise it with faint damnation, saying it is excellent, but not as good as their last album. Then we get to the Stamp Sweet Vibration, and then In the Eyes of a Girl. Okay, if you're on the fence with Lemon Twigs because you think their sound is too retro, please skip this song. This is a little Beach Boys style waltz. It's good, it's strong, but even the lyrics, it's like, I could try to be big in the eyes of the world, but what matters to me is what I could be to just one girl. You know that song of Pet Sounds? In the eyes of the world, I'm too far gone. Man, it's all about just one girl. It's gorgeous, but not my favorite. If You and I Are Not Wise, this is kind of a cooler sound, kind of languid guitar. I called it Birds and Garfunkel, kind of a mixture of Simon and Garfunkel and the Byrds. There's this choir of voices. But what I love is that the drums are kind of junky in the back, and it feels like it's about the band. This is that song that's like, hey, we're not as good as we were last year. How can I love her more? How can I love her mo? That's what my daughter does, my baby does when she wants to hear more music. Mo. And when she listens to this album, she just goes, mo. Just give me those more drums. Like very maximal production here, like with these horns, Monkeys, Beach Boys, just great high singing over the keyboard. But there's like sort of like a Daydream Believer harpsichord moment. Like there's all these little tiny moments. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but it feels like they're just taking this, just like, hey, what if we just got the Daydream Believer, just the harpsichord sound for just like half a second, like a micro sample. Like, would anybody notice it if we did it? And there's another theremin solo. And I love this song because it's an adult love song. It's not, I love her, I saw her eyes, she sets me on fire, all this stuff. It's about being in love with someone who works. My baby works hard, and when she comes home late at night, she knows that I really love her. I get to crying when she's not right by my side. She knows I'll never say a thing about her. And it's just all about how can I possibly love her more than before. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know your prof's a happy man. I'm a happily married man now. I wasn't always a happily married man, which is why I'm on my second marriage. But I'm happy now. I'm a very happy man now. And this feeling of love and joy, that is totally how I feel. Ember Days, this is back a little bit more to the themes of the last album, where they're sort of talking about like nature and seasons and the fire glows and desire and repose. Nice little minor notes. Another kind of like na-na-na section. I really enjoy the na-na-nas and la-la-las because it's just a nice, relaxing thing. Peppermint Roses. This might be my favorite track on the album. It's hard to tell. There's so many good ones here. More kind of Kinksy harmony, but nice ratty vintage synthesizers. Reminds me a little bit of Boris the Spider, one of those early-ish Who songs. But more interesting time signature plays with the melody. Very Monkees chorus. Goodbye, Peppermint Roses. The bridge is just 60s wildness. And at a certain point, it even reminds me of the Munsters theme. Co-written by Jack Marshall and Paul Bufano. I should have known right from the start. This might be sort of tying in to the worst day of my life off the last track, because it's sort of a downbeat thing said in kind of an upbeat way, just repeated over and over again. But it actually extends out. It develops more than that song does. Love is no fun if it's just aggravation. I love the drums, the way it's played on the drums. Listen, I've been listening to Daft Punk for 35 years. I don't know who plays what. I don't know which one of those dudes does which thing. Okay? I don't know which of these two dudes. I don't even know their names. Is one of them Brian? Is one of them Danny? I know the last name is Daddario, but I'm not really into biography. All I can tell you is I really appreciate the drumming throughout this album. The worst track on the album is the final track on the album, Rock On, parentheses, over and over. It's just too much. It's too much. This makes me just go, damn it, because like the Byrds and the Kinks and the Who and the Beach Boys, it all kind of goes together. And even the kind of soft rock 70s stuff they get into. But then this is just so clearly just trying to be a T-Rex song. Even with the clapping, it's just bang-a-gong style rhythm. And then when they start singing in a Steve Miller style. And I love T-Rex. I've had issues with Steve Miller my whole life. I saw him in concert once at Foxborough during a Earth Day concert. It was terrible. But I don't know. I don't. This is a little bit too cute. This goes too far. This kind of contradicts my whole point about them not doing too much pastiche. But there you go. There's my review. It's still awesome. These are my Patreons, the ones who actually give me more money. I can't find their piece of paper because it fell behind my bookshelf, but I appreciate you very much. Zach asked for a shout out, so he's going to get one. It's funny because people are saying that this is the opposite of the rap beef, and it is in some ways, not so much the music, but it's that one thing I like doing on this channel is pointing out that, you know, some art comes from hardship and some art comes from the opposite of hardship. And I don't know what these boys' life was like, what these young men's life was like, but it seems as though their parents are married and their dad was a musician. It seems as though they have a pretty good support network. And it seems as though they've been performing, I don't know, on Broadway for whatever. And this is the thing. I don't think, up until the 19th century, when Romanticism really went wild and we started to think that all artists had to be starving, there wasn't always this really tight connection between the belief that an artist has to suffer to make great art. Sometimes the freedom from suffering gives you time and space to make great art. And this is the kind of great art that people who are free from suffering can make. See Daft Punk as another example. So it's different in the fact that the circumstances are different and the sounds are different, but it's still going back to the main thesis of this channel, which is there is great art being made right now, and if we don't stop to appreciate it, and if we just think that all the best stuff happened beforehand, then not only is our culture dying, but we are dying ourselves. That's my video. Get a spin for that one. My awesome ass jacket. If you're in college or high school, hope you have a good end of semester. If not, I'm sorry that summers are not as much fun as they are for teachers. Okay. Until next time, here's the camera.